Hi there, good morning. The Iberra Eze era is over at Crystal Palace. We'll have in-depth analysis as the England forward gets ready to start a new chapter at Arsenal. Eze is in line to have his medical today, but Oliver Glasner isn't too happy about Crystal Palace's lack of replacement. Now, as Eze heads out, what does the future hold for Marc Guehi? We'll discuss that too. And Alexander Isak's future at Newcastle is still making plenty of headlines. We'll get the very latest from Eddie Howe. That's at 9:30 this morning. A very good morning to you wherever you're watching, and to former Premier League striker and Wales international Rob Earnshaw. Iberra Eze is undergoing a medical with Arsenal today. That's after they agreed a deal with Crystal Palace worth £67.5 million yesterday. Rob, this is the first time we've had you on since some have called it a hijack from Arsenal to get Eze over the line. What did you make of the situation that unfolded and him eventually going to Arsenal, it seems?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is everybody's calling it the hijack. But for me, in my opinion, I don't think so. I don't think we should be naive enough to think Arsenal weren't involved for at least a few weeks. I think the situation has been Crystal Palace want to sell. They have a great player in their hands. Tottenham, of course, are interested. But I think Arsenal were already there from the beginning. Because these things, how they are, is they're identified. They've identified Eze as a potential signing for Arsenal months ago. He's on the list already. This is who we would like. I think it's just gone down to Crystal Palace not wanting to lose him so early in the season and wait till the last minute. But I think Arsenal were already there. And they were ready to go, and they were ready with their money to go, and I think they've triggered that. And now it's been the case of, I feel, Eze's choice of who does he want to go to. Does he want to go to Tottenham because they're ready, or does he want to go with Arsenal? And sometimes those discussions take a few days or a few weeks, and he's decided Arsenal. Now, he was at Selhurst Park last night, but he didn't play in their Conference League qualifier due to illness. This is what Crystal Palace manager Oliver Glasner had to say about Eze's departure after the game.
It's not surprising for everyone that Ebb's left, honestly. It's not surprising. So, because 5 days earlier we couldn't have done anything if he leaves. So, you know, we knew that the chance is very high that this will happen. Yeah? And honestly, and this is again, and I say it like it is, we missed to replace him early enough. That's completely our fault and nobody else's fault.
Now, we're going to speak more about the implications for Palace a little bit later on this morning. But, Rob, is this a bad look for Spurs? Because this is a deal that they could have wrapped up a long time ago. There was that release clause in his contract. They could have done this last week. Instead, have they acted in a way that means they've allowed Arsenal the opportunity to get the player?
I just don't think they had the choice. I don't think it's as clear-cut as Tottenham could have done it last week and got the deal done. I don't think that was the case. I think it's come down to Tottenham are an option for Eze, and so is Arsenal. It's just which is the best deal, and then which then comes down to the final decision. This final decision is to the player. So I don't think Tottenham could have done it last week. I don't think they could. That was the case, because I think Arsenal were already on the table discussing, listen, we want the player also. And then, of course, beneficial for Crystal Palace. And for them, it's like, okay, who pays the most? Who brings the best deal? And then we'll hand it over to the player. And I think they've handed it over to the player. And Eze's had the choice. And I think that's where this kind of non-hijack really has happened. I don't think it's been the case that it's that simple. Because, put it this way, right now, if you're going to make a choice, I think Arsenal's the right choice.
Yeah, what would be his thinking? Because that is the case, I think. He had the option to go to both clubs. Personal terms would have been very similar in terms of finances, I think. But he's obviously opted for Arsenal rather than Tottenham. Is that a situation, unfortunately for Spurs, that any player would probably look at Arsenal as the more attractive option?
Yeah, and I think also you've got to look at it holistically in terms of Eze. He was released as a young player from Arsenal. I believe he's an Arsenal fan. But also, just as a football player right now, where does he fit? Because I think that's going to be the final decision. Where does he fit? Where does he see his football? And also, we've seen Eze have an unbelievable year, but there's more to come from him. And also, at the same time, Mikel Arteta is made all his players way better. I think he sees Arsenal as a place that he can play Champions League football, but also at the same time, Mikel Arteta can make him even better. And I think playing with those great players at Arsenal is what the final decision has been.
What do you think that he'll bring to Arsenal? Do you think he's shown over the course of the last few years at Crystal Palace that he belongs at one of the very best clubs in the world?
Yeah, he does. He does. And it's funny because I think probably 2 years ago, we're all thinking Eze's a talented player, but can he really do it in the Premier League? I think we've seen that. I think he's shown far and above. And I think last season was the really breakout year where I think he convinced everybody. I think at the end of last season, it wasn't a doubt. He scored enough goals, made enough goal contributions, and also at the same time, him as a player, you could just see the confidence. He was way better and he was ready. You could see at the end of the season he's ready, and I think he's ready for this Arsenal move.
In terms of Arsenal themselves, considering what they've done this summer in terms of incomings, do they simply have to deliver this season? Mikel Arteta said the time is now, and surely when you look at that squad, it is ready to compete and win major honours.
Yeah, and I think Mikel Arteta and Arsenal have definitely identified that, okay, who do we need? Who do we need to bring in that takes us to the next level? Gyökeres, one, the goal scorer. I think this one is also a big piece. Eze, somebody who can score goals, can create, and also can handle the pressure. He's not phased. And that's what the big thing, what impresses me about Eze. He's not phased about any occasion. I saw him go to Liverpool, no problem, give me the ball. I'll still do my things. He goes to Arsenal, same thing. He goes to the Man City, no problem at all. And I think that is what that show of confidence and the ability to say, give me the ball in any situation, I think convinced a lot of people, as much as his goals and his creativity, of course.
And in terms of Tottenham's other transfer targets, after missing out on Eze, we understand Spurs are still in the hunt for a number 10, a left winger and a left-sided centre-back, and it could be a very busy final few days of the transfer window at Spurs, but clubs clearly aware they are prepared to pay £60 million on the desired player after missing out on Morgan Gibbs-White and Eze for similar fees. From a Spurs perspective, have they missed the opportunity to build on winning the Europa League? Your suggestion is that Eze, it wasn't their fault they couldn't get the deal done. Morgan Gibbs-White, there was a different situation there when it came to his contract. He's now signed a new one at Forest. But have they missed the chance to build on that success?
With missing out on Gibbs-White, yes. With missing out with Eze, yes. I just think it's also been just unlucky. Gibbs-White, the whole situation was they were ready to go. They were ready to make the deal happen. But Nottingham Forest said, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that. We're going to keep our player. It's not going to happen. Move on. Maddison also got injured in the process. And then Eze, I think Eze is just a case of, okay, the player didn't come. And sometimes those deals happen. I've seen it behind the scenes where a player goes and chooses somewhere else and you think, oh, we felt like he wanted to come, but he chose somewhere else. No problem. I think Tottenham now have to move on and they have to continue to find that number 10 replacement.
Yeah, busy few days for Tottenham. But let's get back to the Arsenal angle now and look at where Iber Eze may fit into this Arsenal team. Rob, come with us. We're going to go to the big screen now. We know Eze is due to have a medical today. Arsenal have until midday to register him if they want to be part of that squad to play Leeds tomorrow night. It feels like a long shot, but it's a game you can watch live on Sky Sports if he was to feature. Now, let's take a look at the first team you've put together. There's two different teams you've given us. The first version of this has Eze on the left-hand side. I suspect that this 11 will be quite a popular choice with Arsenal fans. Talk us through your thinking here.
Well, there's a few kind of decisions. Obviously, number one, Calafiore. Lewis Skelly, also a great player. So you can choose whichever you feel like. But I think Calafiore will play just as many games as Lewis Skelly. And then obviously, kind of looking at Zubimendi, new signing. I think he's excellent last week. He's been brilliant. He's an excellent player. Him and Rice, I think, probably have to play. Ødegaard has to play. He's the key. He's the link between the whole team. And obviously, Gyökeres coming in. Saka will play, for sure. And then you just feel like, OK, Martinelli is the only one that really is probably the one there you think he doesn't have to play. Who comes in and replaces him? I think Eze goes on the left-hand side with the freedom to roll inside at times, because what you tend to have is Rice normally joins that left wing, and sometimes you'll see him as a left winger. That will allow Eze to come inside sometimes as that number 10.
It feels like Martinelli could be the man to miss out, maybe Nottingham Forest as well. Obviously, Eze's had a full pre-season with Palace, played last Sunday. He's probably not going to be registered in time to play tomorrow and start. But do you think next weekend, their next game, when they take on Liverpool next weekend, that we could see this man starting on the left-hand side?
I think so, yeah. I believe so. And I believe this is what Mikel Arteta is thinking, because I think he loves this kind of concept of the two midfielders, Ødegaard kind of rolling into the left, but then Eze is the one that really fills that left-hand side. And I think that's what he's going to go for. And against Liverpool, it's a perfect scenario, perfect game. And like I said, the one thing I love about Eze is he always says, give me the ball. Always says, give me the ball.
Any situation on the pitch.
And whether it's Liverpool, whether it's Man City. And I think that's what takes you to the next level if you're Arsenal. Somebody who says, no problem, I don't care, even if I've lost it 3 times, give me the ball. And I think that confidence is huge for Arsenal.
And Arsenal fans, even Paul Merson speaking yesterday, despite all the business they've done, it's this signing which really, really excites them in particular. 2 players not on this list, Kai Havertz currently out injured, Noni Madueke, who I mentioned. How do you see them fitting in this season? Or should we see it more in terms of squad depth? Arsenal could be playing 50, 60 matches this season. All these players will be required.
Well, listen, I think when I was kind of putting this team together, I was kind of looking at the bench also, and I'm thinking, for the first time, I think Arsenal have got a real depth now. They've got great players that could easily replace the other one, and they'll need it. With all the games, with all the amount of games and the competition, they'll need it. And I think there'll be a lot of rotation. Madueke's come in. Obviously, if Eze completes his deal, you're talking about the left back, Lewis Skelly can play there. You know, you talk about even Timber. I put him in there because I think he's brilliant. Ben White can easily come in there. Kepa is signing goals. He might need Raya might need a rest. And you
Mosquera, they've signed in defence. They've got options every area of the pitch now.
So many. And of course, if Kai Havertz is fit, maybe Gyökeres needs a rest. No problem. Kai Havertz comes in. So they've just got so many options now. And I just look at them and I think, okay, this is a real contender with great players that they've brought in that can actually win the league. And for me, I'm starting to believe that they can.
It is very exciting when you look at this team. So that's with Eze on the left-hand side. Let's take a look at another possible Arsenal 11 one now. This is slightly more controversial, I guess. Ødegaard and Eze both playing through the middle. Is this something that you think we could maybe see at some stage?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just think sometimes with the games where you know you might have extra possession, you know generally you're gonna dominate that game. And I just think sometimes it will require Eze and Ødegaard together. And do you know what? That actually excites me. You know, and this was hard to put together, by the way, because Zubimendi, I'm a big fan of. I just think he's so good. But just right now, maybe for this 1 game or 2 games or whatever, maybe he's the one that misses out. Rice stays in. I just think maybe he edges it right now. But Eze, Ødegaard together, I just think there's so much magic. There's so much unlocking defenses. I think they're too clever. They're too intelligent. Their technique is so good. And what that allows is Saka, Gyökeres, Martinelli. Do you want the ball to feet? Do you want to run in behind? We will find you. And that's, for me, that's what excites me about Eze and Ødegaard together. Because I just think the brilliant thing about when you have talented players is they also want to play with each other. They just know, and sometimes you don't have to speak. They'll just see you, and without words, it's more, I'll give you the ball, and the ball arrives, and you just think, how did he see it? It's because they're on a certain football wavelength, and I think that's what brings Ødegaard and Eze playing almost like as 2 number 10s, and I think that's going to be required at times.
This is definitely a lineup that would surprise fans, I think. But is there an argument potentially that against sides that are maybe weaker in the Premier League, when Arsenal are at home, when you'd expect them to dominate possession, that you maybe don't need Martin Zubimendi and you could field 5 really attacking players in this team?
Yeah, I think this is just, you know, you look at this and this is more an alternative because, you know, the case of Zubimendi might come in. Maybe Rice is given a rest. Maybe now you're seeing that Eze might come in for Ødegaard, and sometimes he needs a rest because he's played a lot of minutes as well. So it's interesting, but I try to put myself in Mikel Arteta's shoes. I don't think he'll do this too much. I think Eze will play on that left-hand side, but this, as an option, is great. This excites me. And if I'm playing against this, I'm thinking, that front six, who do we pick up? You know, because they're all going to move, they're all going to create. Each one of them with the ball is so dangerous. That's going to be a tough afternoon.
Just finally, we looked at Arsenal's spending so far this summer, and they were in a really good position before this deal. How much closer does buying Iber Eze take them to winning a title this season and going really, really far in the Champions League?
As a goal contribution, you talk about, I think he was second compared to all the other Arsenal players. If you look at his contributions last season, goals and assists, he would be second in that league. I think it would be Saga, first, if I'm correct on that. But I just think that
last season was quite a lean year, wasn't it? Because Saka had that injury. I think Havertz was the top scorer at 9 or something. So
yeah.
Plenty
but
of work to be done.
I think it's the match-winning performances that Eze brought last year in big moments, winning his side the games consistently. I think that's what he's going to bring. I think right now, bringing in Gyökeres, bringing in Eze, I think Arsenal are real contenders for the league, because I think that just brings them way closer. They can now challenge Liverpool, can now challenge Man City, because I think it'll be those three as the ones fighting for the title.
Arsenal fans certainly dreaming, and they say dreams don't come true. Well, look at this. An incredible tweet from Eze has now re-emerged on social media, which he posted in April 2015. A defiant Eze wrote this message when he was released by Millwall, aged just 16, having already been let go by Arsenal at 13. It read, "I swear I'm going to make it, and when I do, they're going to show this tweet. Lol." Well, we're showing this tweet now. Iber Eze, we wish you all the best at Arsenal. A very, very exciting summer. And we may be able to see Arsenal in action against Leeds on the Saturday night football. He needs to be registered by midday, but live coverage from the Emirates gets underway from 5 p.m. tomorrow on Sky Sports Premier League. OK, next we're going to look at Crystal Palace and their future and the captain, Marc Guehi, at Selhurst Park. Is he going anywhere, or will he remain a Crystal Palace player? Hi there, welcome back. Time now for our transfer update. Iber Eze is having his Arsenal medical today ahead of completing a £67.5 million move from Crystal Palace. Tottenham are interested in Monaco attacking midfielder Magnus Akliouche. Thomas Frank's side want a number 10, a winger and a centre-back before the deadline. Crystal Palace are close to agreeing a deal worth £32 million with Leicester for forward Bilal El-Khanous. Alexander Isak continues to train away from his Newcastle teammates after his public standoff with the club earlier this week. We'll hear from Eddie Howe in just a few minutes' time. Johan Wissa is back training with Brentford ahead of Saturday's game with Aston Villa after a £40 million bid from Newcastle was rejected. Napoli are open to including an obligation to buy in a loan deal for Manchester United's Rasmus Højlund. That's according to our colleagues at Sky in Italy. There's outgoings at Chelsea as defender Renato Vega is set to join Villarreal in a £26 million move. Meanwhile, Bournemouth have interest in the Chelsea defender Axel Disasi. Wolves are in advanced talks with Girona for defender Ladislav Krejci in a deal worth around £25 million. One done deal sees Douglas Luiz join Nottingham Forest on loan from Juventus. There is an obligation to buy the former Aston Villa midfielder if certain conditions are met. Don't forget, you can keep across all the latest information as it happens on our dedicated Transfer Centre blog. Just scan the QR code which is on your screen right now. Now, we heard Oliver Glasner earlier speak about Iber Eze and it being Palace's fault that they've not yet replaced him yet. Rob, what do you make of this situation at Crystal Palace? 2 players through the door, a goalkeeper and a left-back. But clearly, when you look at the squad in their first 2 games of the season, include the Community Shield in that, it's threadbare right now, and Glasner isn't being supported in the market.
Yeah, I think he's frustrated because, if you look at, obviously as it's been on the cards for a little while, so it's not something new. You've known that maybe in the last 6 months, at some point, he might go. So you've had probably 6 months or so to start planning ahead, and also back the manager, especially with how well he's done. With the Charity Shield, with the FA Cup, he's a winning coach now, and doing it at Crystal Palace, the unsung heroes almost, but you've got to replace Eze. And, you know, listen, everybody knows clearly Crystal Palace are a selling club. If they're a selling club, bring the next one through. The kind of, you know, like Brentford have done, like Brighton have done. The next star, the next one that is going to replace him, bring him in. Either you buy him for cheap and bring him in, you know, obviously turn him into a star, or there's one maybe in the academy, or there's one already. You know, I think Sarr has been, you know, somebody like him has been excellent, but he wants more bodies because they're also going to play in Europe, don't forget, this year.
There was the uncertainty around which European competition they'd be in this season, which may be a reason for the delay in the transfers. But Oliver Glasner last season, very unhappy when they made 4 signings on deadline day. They didn't win their first 8 games in the Premier League last season, got off to a terrible start, really. Is there a fear that the history maybe repeats itself? They surely need to act now to get a replacement in for Eze at least, and potentially one for Marc Guehi if he was to depart.
Yeah, and those are the examples, because Oliver Glasner would have looked at last season and think, okay, how can we improve? And what were we like in the first 10 games? Well, we struggled for the first 8. Why was that? I think the transfer window, and inside the dressing rooms, there can be almost this uncertainty, because you got some of the dressing room wanting to go, some of the dressing room not knowing if they're going to be sold or not, and then the rest they kind of know, but also then the new faces that will come into the dressing room and not even there yet, so you don't even know them yet. So I think that causes that, you know, disruption. First 8 games, you don't know. I think what he doesn't want to do, Oliver Glasner, is have 3 or 4 players come in deadline day, and then that's when you're starting the season. You're already a few games in. It's too late. It's too far down the line. You don't want to make that same mistake. You want to build momentum from now, not in September.
Now, I mentioned Marc Guehi there. He's also been linked with a move away from Selhurst Park. This is what Glasner had to say about his future last night.
I just know if Marc leaves and is not available for Fredrikstad, we will have big troubles. That's pretty clear. We can't register anyone. So from my side, he has to stay. Again, you see, you know, we played with Jeff Lerma in the back. He's a midfield player. We have no centre back available at the moment. And if Marc leaves, okay, maybe I will try my boots, because I was a centre back and this could be a good option. I will think about it.
Well, I'm not sure Glasner is registered as a player to play next Thursday, but he says Guehi must stay for next Thursday's conference playoff second leg. So that would mean they would only have 3 days of the window to find a replacement if he left after that game. Now, Chairman Steve Parish says if Guehi doesn't sign a new contract, they could be forced to sell before the deadline. What did you make of Glasner's comments and his body language and tone in his press conference? That's after they won a game, let's not forget, against Fredrikstad last night.
Yeah, he's clearly very, very frustrated. And I think those discussions would have also kind of been very open and very well discussed with Mr. Parish in the boardroom in terms of that recruitment. I think he's very frustrated. I think he's very annoyed. I think it could have... I think the signings or who he wants, and also Guehi not leaving, is key. He wants a decision whether he's going to have that player available or not, so he can have his best team. I think he's very, very frustrated. And I mean, put it this way, maybe I want Guehi to go and then put Glasner at centre-back. I want to actually kind of see that, but he's clearly frustrated. He's annoyed with it, and he wants it done as soon as possible. Because the worst thing for football managers, especially Premier League, when cameras are on you every 2 or 3 days, is last-minute additions to your team, and then you're kind of starting to build a relationship. The player doesn't know how how you want to play, and it's last-minute signings. He doesn't want that. He wants it done very, very quickly. Or Guehi stays completely, and there's assurance, unless somebody pays crazy amount of money. But Guehi, you know, at Crystal Palace, I'm sure Glasner wants him there.
Yes or no, is Marc Guehi still a Crystal Palace player on Tuesday, the 2nd of September?
Yes, I believe he will be. I think if Eze's gone, I think he stays. But I think if Eze stayed, I think Guehi would have been gone.
OK, we wait to see. It's certainly a huge Super Sunday coming up for Crystal Palace as they welcome Nottingham Forest, who replaced them in the Europa League. As at Selhurst Park, it is going to be some atmosphere there. It's the first time they've played each other since that decision. Live coverage is from 1 p.m. on Sky Sports Premier League. Don't go anywhere, because next we'll hear from Eddie Howe on Alexander Isak's future at Newcastle, ahead of that game against Liverpool in the Monday Night Football.
Hello there, coming up this morning at 10 o'clock, Sky Sports Fan Club, the show that puts you at the heart of the debate. We're joined by Peterborough owner Darragh McAntony on this morning's show as we react to Oliver Glasner's frustration at Crystal Palace's recruitment strategy. Darragh will tell us exactly how a transfer works. We'll also look at Manchester City's chances of regaining the Premier League title and put your questions to Darragh. So, if you want to send us a voice note or leave a message on WhatsApp, simply scan this QR code. It'll take you straight there. Alternatively, use our WhatsApp number 07514 917 075, or give us your views on X, Instagram and Facebook. Just use the hashtag SkySportsFC.
Jamie, thank you very much. Plenty of focus on Newcastle at the moment as the Alexander Isak saga rumbles on. Let's hear from Eddie Howe now.
Good morning, Eddie. Before we come on to the match, just want to ask you firstly about Alexander Isak, and has anything changed over the last couple of days with his situation?
No, there's been no change.
So he, again, won't be part of your squad. Is that your expectation?
Yeah, no, he won't be part of the squad for this weekend's game.
Over the summer, you've answered a lot of questions about him, but earlier this week there was an exchange of words publicly. He published a statement. The club responded quite quickly. Is it helpful to you that there is now other communication about this situation coming from the club, coming from higher up?
Yeah, I'd always say my preference for these things is it doesn't happen publicly, because I think everything is better dealt with behind closed doors, but needs must, and in this situation the club has spoken, and probably justifiably so in that moment.
And is it still your hope that he can be reintegrated into the squad, even if that is dependent on him?
Yeah, of course. He's contracted to us, he's our player. My wish is that he would be playing on Monday night with us, but he won't be, and that's regrettable at this moment. But he, 100%, I want to see him back in a Newcastle shirt.
I wonder how you're dealing with this unique situation with Alex. How are you dealing with it personally?
I think, of course, these situations are far from ideal, as in talking press-wise, and a lot of the attention has gone on to that rather than the team and our preparation. But in terms of, as soon as I leave here, I'm back with the team. I'm back preparing, training, taking training, delivering meetings, speaking to individual players, trying to get the group in the best frame of mind possible. So the job never changes. Just the outside perception is, of course, one that's totally different to normal.
I guess you're seeing Alex though, aren't you? Because he's arriving in the afternoon to do his own training, and you're still here. Are you having conversations with him, and how is your relationship with him despite all this that's going on?
Yeah, I haven't seen him this week, I don't think. I saw him last week. Yeah, when I see him, we speak as normal. There's no issues there between us. Of course, it's a difficult situation from both sides, and I can see it's far from ideal for both parties, and that includes Alex and us. But no, when we see each other, we're fine and we speak. But as I say, I haven't run into him this week. He's training later on and detached from the group, and of course then I'm in meetings and pulled all over the place during the day. My days are chaotic because there's so much going on in them. But we will, I'm sure, catch up at some stage and hopefully speak soon.
And with every day that passes closer to the deadline, it's increasingly likely that Alex will be a Newcastle player beyond the end of the transfer window. You said that the door is wide open for him. How do you turn the situation around and reintegrate him well as part of the group?
I think that's probably a conversation for another day. At the moment, that is not an option for us. So rather than talk hypotheticals, I'd rather talk when we get there, when we get to that point, and then, of course, we'll enter that phase and see what we need to do to try and get the best for Alex, get the best for the team, which is always the priority. But until that point, I think we're best focusing on the players we have available for the next game.
OK, more from Eddie Howe throughout the day on Sky Sports News. Here's a reminder of what he has just said. He said there is no change. Alexander Isak will not be part of the squad to take on Liverpool in the Monday night football. He says, my wish is that he would be playing. He won't be. That's regrettable. But 100% I want him back in a Newcastle shirt. He says he hasn't seen or spoken to him this week and says it's far from ideal for both parties, both Isak and Newcastle. What do you think we learnt from hearing from Eddie Howe just now?
That he's not spoken to Isak. I mean, people.
Is that a surprise?
Yes and no. Yes for me, because you're in the same training ground. Yes, he's training in the afternoon, but Eddie Howe is probably there. But people say, hey, OK, how can that happen? Normally, the manager in the afternoons is then doing the behind-the-scenes work. He's obviously press, media, meetings, reviewing games, analysing games, speaking to scouts behind the scenes, preparing for next game. So he's busy. Isak comes in, maybe he's in a different area, doing his thing, changed, gone, whatever. So those things can happen, of course. But I just think that Eddie Howe's getting very frustrated with it. I think clearly Isak's very frustrated, because I think there's been a lot of talk about Isak and you know, how can he do this? There's clearly, and based on his statement, there's clearly some promises that were made. And he said, the club's known my position for a long time. Now, players can do that. And there's been lots of players that have said, listen, I want to leave. And clearly, that might have been at the end of last season that he said this, and there's been promises. And those promises have been broken. And then he's frustrated and said, listen, well, I'm about loyalty. And if you said this and I believe I'm going to be sold, then why are you not doing that? So there's been a clear, miscommunication, breakdown. But I think Eddie Howe wants the matter closed as soon as possible. And I think he's really waiting, and he can't wait for the transfer deadline, because at that point, either Liverpool are going to come in and say, here's the money, we'll take the player, and it meets the required amount of money, or he's a Newcastle player. Right now, I believe it's 50-50, to be honest, because there's a lot of money that's demanded for him, and even probably Isak. I think probably the one thing that frustrates Isak is he's probably thinking, you're asking too much money for me. I'm not worth that. And I think that's what he's thinking. If it is, for example, 110, 115, maybe 120, he's probably thinking, guys, Newcastle, that's enough. I don't think I'm worth more than that. You should take it. So I think that's part of the discussion and the frustration from Isak's side.
Well, Newcastle value him at £150 million, reportedly. In terms of this situation being resolved, you said it's 50-50, what happens? If he stays at Newcastle, and you'd have been there as a player yourself, and you'd have been in squads where players have had to be reintegrated after situations like this, just how difficult is that? Or once he plays, if he scores, do things completely change it and go back to normal? Or can they ever go back to normal?
I think in this situation, if he stays at Newcastle, I believe there would be some kind of apology from him to the team. Because I think you're still in the team environment, and the other players in that dressing room would probably want an apology to say, listen, you didn't want to play for us for the last few weeks. They probably know the reasons why. I'm sure that's quite open in the dressing room. But at the same time, then, if he does stay, does apologise, players, to be honest with you, in the dressing room, they'll quickly welcome him in, because they know he's a quality player. He's going to score goals. He's going to help them. He's a world-class player. That's I don't think we have to say that. But at the same time, I think he will fit straight in. I think he won't have a problem once he apologises and says, listen, guys, I'm ready to play. Let's go. But listen, I think it's going to get messier. as the transfer deadline comes. And I don't think this is really going to be a quick fix because I think there's been a lot of breakdown between Newcastle and Isak.
We're certainly going to be an incredible atmosphere on Monday night. A reminder, you can see Newcastle take on Liverpool in what could be a blockbuster Monday night football. Watch it on Sky Sports Premier League from 6:30. More on the breaking news at the bottom of your screen. Ipswich have had a £14 million offer accepted by Leicester City for winger Casey McAteer. Next, we'll focus on Chelsea and their striker issues ahead of tonight's Friday night football at West Ham. Hi there, welcome back. Chelsea travel to West Ham in the live Friday night football tonight, with both sides looking for their first win and goals of the new season. Plenty of focus is on Chelsea's striking options after the arrivals of Liam Delap and João Pedro. They've dropped Nicholas Jackson down to third choice. Are you surprised by how quickly Jackson's gone from first choice to third choice in the Chelsea strike options?
Yes. Yeah, because I think he's had a decent couple of years, really. He's scored goals. He's shown that he adds to the team in his busyness, his ability to obviously pop in with match-winning goals. So, you know, I mean, when you look at, you know, games played 30, goals 10, decent return. And he's not played
14 the season before as well.
Yeah, and I just think a couple of his sending-offs in the last few months, I think him also, there's been a few games where he could have been a match winner, didn't deliver. And I think Mr. Maresca's just kind of looked at it and thought, OK, we need more than that. We need, you know, the likes of João Pedro. We need efficiency. You know, you look at Pedro and Delap coming in. Delap just showed last season that with limited chances, small amount of chances, he can score goals and deliver. I mean, João Pedro we know he's a quality player, but he's also different. I think that's why I'm also surprised is Nicholas Jackson plays more on the last line of defence, more speedy, wants to run in behind more. João Pedro likes to drop deep, likes to go wide. Sometimes he's a creator rather than a goal scorer. Delap is a goal scorer. So 3 different strikers, 3 different options. So I'm very surprised with that, but João Pedro scored goals, and then obviously Liam Delap. I was very, very impressed with him. And just looking at his game, I love the spaces that he gets into, and I love how when he gets the chance, he doesn't overthink it too much. He delivers. He's a really, really good finisher, and obviously he can handle the moment because he showed last season in a poor Ipswich team, that he can deliver score goals. But 12 goals, 37 games, that's excellent. And can he now do it at Chelsea? I think he will. I think you allow him that time to kind of settle in. He knows Cole Palmer. They know each other from Man City. And I just think he'll get there and he'll be ready. And whoever he chooses, is he going to be João Pedro? It was last week. Or is it going to be Delap? Because it seems as if he'll be one of them who starts. But it'll be interesting maybe at some point to put them together as well.
Yeah, that could definitely happen because João Pedro at Brighton did play as almost a number 10 at times with Welbeck or Jorginho Ruta playing as a striker. Enzo Maresca said yesterday that Nicholas Jackson is fit right now, but he won't be in the squad tomorrow. Liam Delap, can you see him becoming first choice at Chelsea?
I can. I wouldn't have said that probably 6 months ago, but now I can because, 1, he's signed. Number 2, I think in the moments that he's come into this Chelsea team, he didn't look out of place. He looked as if he can continue. How many goals? I mean, we looked at the stats there, how many goals he scored. But he's a finisher. And I think he fits the Chelsea team. And I think if you give him chances, he's going to score goals at Chelsea. But I think Jackson is going to be a very good choice for somebody else because it seems very clear that Mr. Maresca wants him to go. And he's got these options of João Pedro and Delap are now going to be his strikers.
We'll wait to see who starts tonight. Nicholas Jackson won't be in that squad. What do you think happens with him between now and the end of this transfer window? Because there's been links with Newcastle. They potentially need a striker, potentially need 2 strikers. Aston Villa as well, though financially that could be a difficult deal for them to do.
Yeah, very difficult. I think he... number 1, I think there'll be 3 or 4 teams really after him. The likes of Newcastle, you know, the likes of... I even look at him as, you know, a potential signing for somebody who's, you know, yeah, I mean, it's hard. Newcastle's the one that I think of straight away, but I just look at him and think, okay, are you going to get him on a permanent? He might be too expensive. That's the only problem with Nicholas Jackson, but can you get him on loan? I feel like Newcastle will be the perfect fit. If Isak goes, I think he fits in and he comes and he scores goals. And I think he'll fit right in at Newcastle. But it's a tricky one because who wants to pay the amount of money that Chelsea will want for him? Maybe not many.
OK, let's get to one of your old clubs, Nottingham Forest. They've signed Douglas Luiz from Juventus. The Brazilian international midfielder joins on an initial loan deal with an obligation to buy if certain conditions are met. Now, Luiz is Nottingham Forest's 7th summer signing. How good of a signing is this? Because I think you're quite excited about this one.
I'm super excited. I just think, you know, we saw Douglas Luiz at Aston Villa a couple of years ago, and he was one of the best midfielders in the whole Premier League. He's obviously gone to Juventus. It's not quite worked out because I believe he would have wanted to stay in the Premier League. This is an unbelievable signing for Nottingham Forest. This is brilliant. It shows where Nottingham Forest are right now compared to a year and a half ago. Signing Douglas Luiz, one of the best midfielders. Of course, McAtee and Hutchinson is also being signed as well. I'm just looking at Nottingham Forest's midfield. I'm thinking they've got real, genuine, excellent players, not just for Europe, but also for the Premier League. Ones that Douglas Luiz is a great signing because I believe he can go and play at any of the top teams. Liverpool, Manchester City, Arsenal. He could easily fit in their squad and contribute to them, never mind Nottingham Forest. So I just think it's a great signing.
They've signed Arno Kalimuendo, who scored 17 goals in Ligue 1 last season, so 3 frontline strikers, 4 now if you include Taiwo Awoniyi. In terms of what they've been able to do, because last Friday Nuno told us he was frustrated, they weren't ready for the start of the Premier League season. Last season was incredible. Do you think with what they've done now, they can maybe replicate or even do better than what they did last year?
Potentially, yes. I think what you'll say is keep our feet on the ground, take it step by step, but they're building a team that genuinely can go and better last season. And let's face it, they should have been in the Champions League because of how good their season was. They dropped off right at the end. So maybe that was the moment where it was, okay, we need people that can finish the season off. And Douglas Luiz, yes, of course. Hutchinson, McAtee. McAtee's used to winning trophies at Manchester City. And, you know, listen, Anderson is the other one. I thought last week's performance from Anderson showed that we could have a genuine superstar here. But listen, it's a great midfield. Nottingham Forest, great business, building for Europe, but potentially could really do something in the Premier League this season with that squad.
Just briefly, how do you think Chris Wood's minutes will be affected having signed 2 strikers this summer? Could he get a bit of a breather? Will he not be the number 9 for every match now? Yeah,
I think last year was a bit of an anomaly. He played most of the season, almost all the minutes. Awoniyi missed a few, of course, through injuries, but I think now they can afford a 33-year-old, I believe, going on 34, Chris Wood, to take some rest every now and again. And it just opens it up. I think it's really, really good. And sometimes also give that extra option, not just rely on Chris Wood.
Rob, thank you very much for now. We are back at midday. Good Morning Transfers returns on Monday from 9 a.m. Do join us for that. Coming up next is the Sky Sports Fan Club, a chance for you to have your say ahead of the second week of the Premier League season. Iber Eze's imminent move to Arsenal is bound to be on the agenda at midday. We'll be live at Arsenal, Spurs and Crystal Palace. Don't go anywhere.